Hi, Dr. Evan Shea here. Just wondering if your child has outbursts. Does your child scream and run all over the place, or are they disturbed by loud noises? Or even can they not sit still when you're at a movie theater or we're in the classroom? Or are they just sensitive, emotionally sensitive, and they say negative things about themselves? Well, the good news is it might not be their behavior. It actually might be a reflex that's not integrated inside the nervous system. So it might be a brain issue, not a behavioral issue. And so I went down the rabbit hole as well, feeling like that as a parent, right? So is it really behavior, or is it understanding a child's hidden struggles? Does your child struggle with meltdowns, even over small things? So do they seem overwhelmed by sounds and lights? Are they constantly bumping into things? Are they clumsy? All right, so we're going to take a deeper dive into how the brain and nervous system control our behavior in children. The primitive reflexes, they are the foundation of all development. And there's a purpose behind these primitive reflexes. So when we're born, we just have specific reflexes. We need to eat, we need to poop, we need to breathe, right? And so a baby screams because they either have the desire to eat, they have to poop, if they're hungry, or if they just want to be held or touched. All right, so these reflexes are there purposely because we don't have cognitive thought yet. Our frontal lobe, our big brain, our frontal lobe brain, is not formed yet. So these kids rely on reflexes in order for them to survive. We call that the reptilian brain or the old brain. And it sits in the brainstem, which sits right back there. And so these movements are completely automatic and they're foundational for kids. Brain foundations. These are crucial for proper neural connections and sensory processing. Natural integration. These reflexes should disappear as the brain develops. So by the age of 12 months old, most, if not all, of these reflexes should be completely integrated inside the nervous system. And if they don't, then the child's going to have some delays in their behavior patterns. They're going to have more meltdowns. When they persist, when they persist, they can interfere with emotional regulation, learning, behavior. They could affect their ability to socialize with kids and others. Right? Their progress in school could be blunted. Right? So these are really critical reflexes for them. These are the four key reflexes that we test in practice. We do a lot more than this, but these are the core four. The motor reflex. This is the fight or flight reflex. And so if your child hears loud noises and they startle, or they don't like the hair dryer or the dryers in the men's room or ladies' room because it's too loud for them, thunder and lightning they're just afraid of, they could cause, when they're not integrated in the nervous system, anxiety. They startle easily, emotional overreaction. I'm sure many of us see that with our children. ATNR, also known as the asymmetrical tonic neck reflex. This helps with crawling. So it's very important for kids that they crawl. So if we miss these milestones, then the child's actually going to have poor handwriting, reading difficulties, coordination between left and right side. So these are very important. I know with my child, my 7-year-old, he missed a milestone of ATNR, and he also had some handwriting issues. He skipped over the crawling aspect in his development. STNR, known as the symmetric tonic neck reflex, enables crawling on hands and knees. They can't sit still when these are not integrated. All right, they become fidgety. They have poor posture, like this child in this picture over here. They just slump over. They sit like this, right? And so that's really important for this to be integrated for kids to have proper emotional regulation. And then tonic labyrinthine reflex. This prepares for balance and coordination. So if this reflex is not integrated, it's going to cause clumsiness, motion sickness, spatial confusion. All right, so they're going to trip over things, they're going to fall over things, they could bang their toes on things. They're also going to be going to move around a lot. These children want to be able to just run around. It's how the bodies integrate their nervous system. So the children are really smart. They'll start doing activities that they need. It's not because it's bad behavior. They just need to do these activities like run around or scream to get sensory stimuli into the brain and nervous system. Now, this is what happens when stress impacts the reflexes. So any kind of regulated development, the brain matures naturally when in a safe environment. In fact, if a child's not held at birth for a period of time, the child will die because it needs to have that integration, that love from another. A stress response will cause a traumatic event. It activates survival mode in the brainstem, which will create reflex retention. And then the primitive reflexes get locked in, and then you'll see these reflexes show up when they're supposed to be gone at 12 months. They show up at 3 years old or 5 years old, 7 years old. I even see adults that are in their 70s that have these reflexes that show up. So these are really important reflexes. In adults, if we get rid of these reflexes, typically chronic pain gets better as well. And then brain imbalance. So when these reflexes are under stress, the left and right brain don't communicate very well. So when under stress, when we move to more of a primitive brain, the right brain gets shunted and the left brain becomes more active. And it's very common. And so these children that are spatially unaware, the right brain is underactive. Also, it's going to affect the immune system. Consider the right brain being like the parasympathetic, the calming nervous system, and the left brain being the sympathetic or over-dominant. That's going to be the stress hormones, the stress response. And these children become extremely analytical. These kids, typically in the right brain deficient, they need to move around a lot and become very fidgety. These are the classical ADHD kids. Signs your child may have retained reflexes. Physical signs: poor coordination, slouched posture, difficulty with fine motor skills. Sensory issues: overwhelmed by noise, hates certain textures, easily motion sick. Learn challenges: reading difficulties, reversing letters, and you'll see the B's and D's get reversed. Poor concentration, emotional responses, meltdowns, anxiety, extreme reactions to minor problems. Just comment below if your child fits into any of these. Why these challenges are often misunderstood. Because these challenges are blamed on behavior. They think it's just bad behavior and these children need to be put in timeout. When in essence, it's not a behavioral issue, it's a neurological issue. And the school systems and many physicians and clinicians and PTs and OTs focus on the symptoms of ADHD, anxiety, and learning disabilities. They're diagnosed without addressing the root causes. So in Chinese medicine, there's a proverb that states, to treat disease, you must treat the root. And the root in most children, if it's not a genetic cause, and only 5% of child development issues is genetics, it is typically a foundational primitive reflex neurodevelopmental issue in children in the brain and nervous system. And limited awareness. Many health professionals, I know when my son had his rehab, they may have looked at the primitive reflexes as an assessment tool, but never utilized technology and corrective exercises to integrate those reflexes. They started at the fourth phase, which is the cognitive phase, versus the foundational phase, which is primitive reflexes. And it's always typically overlooked. It's not willful bad behavior, right, or misbehavior. It's a trigger. So any kind of sensory input overwhelms the nervous system. Remember, these kids are very sensitive. The nervous systems are really, it's almost like, imagine walking on ice and the body tightens up. That's what happens to these children. They're always walking on ice in the nervous system. So a small trigger creates a big issue. It's a reflex response. Just like if somebody scares you, they sneak around, kaboom, right? And you have this specific response. That's a reflex response, right? So these kids are just responding reflexively. It's not a misbehavior issue. It's a neurological issue. The logical brain's offline. So the left brain is logical. So it becomes offline. Reasoning centers become temporarily shut down because all the blood's going back to what's known as the reptilian brain for survival purposes. And then the children melts down. He starts flipping his lid, so to say. Okay, remember, it's not your child's behavior. It's a brain issue. It's a neurological issue. And once we understand that as parents, we become more patient with our child. It's their body's way to respond to a stressful event. So if your child screams during a stressful event, or they hold their head, or they just randomly just run around in circles, it's because that's how the nervous system. That's what the nervous system needs to do. That's what the nervous system needs to do to correct their imbalances. The path to integration. So first thing we need to do is know how to assess these reflexes. And so we need to assess the reflexes, identify which reflexes are not integrated, and then create a corrective strategy to integrate those reflexes. But we have to use specialized technology as well to integrate it faster, because these exercises work very well, but it's a very slow process. I remember when my son went to a PT who actually focused on the reflexes, and he was there for 6 months, 12 months. And then when I assessed his reflexes, he still had 7 of the 8 reflexes that I tested. He was doing all the corrective exercises properly. However, if we don't use 3 factors, we need the proper stimulation. So proper stimulation is the exercise. He was getting that. But we need to have energy to the systems of the body. So energy and then oxygen. So my son was lacking 2 out of 3 components to integrate those reflexes. So when we started using laser therapy and pulsed electromagnetic field devices and specialized VR technology, now we're able to access specific parts of the brain so we could integrate the reflexes. And with my son, most of them integrated within a week. But I did a very intensive program with him. So it doesn't take long. It took 6 to 12 months where my son was previously focusing on those primitive exercises, but they never got integrated because they didn't use energy production technology as well as oxygen inducing technology, right? So we need to do targeted movements. And this is going to be in our clinic. We empower our parents to become clinicians at home. So there's that saying, give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach a man a fish, he eats for a lifetime. Our job as clinicians at Kinetic is to teach you how to treat your child so that you don't need us long term. All right. That's my number one goal. We want to be able to teach you to heal your child. And we're just your coach. That's why we do specialized one-on-one care with our kids. And you guys behave as I want you in the room. I want you to be part of the care. I want you to be able to help us with the care so you can carry the care at home. I don't want it to be secret. I want you to be able to know how to do this. It's very important. And that was the missing link for my child. They didn't bring us into the room or give us exercises to give our child that's specifically for them to do on a daily basis. Sensory support. We need to create environments that reduce triggers and support regulation. What's beautiful is this. Once the reflexes are integrated, the brain starts developing the way it should. And so the sensory support needs to be diminished. So you don't have to make changes at home in your lifestyle over time, just short term, to be able to make sure the child lives in a safe environment. Consistent practice. So there's a saying that says repetition is the mother of skill. So my child still, to this day, he picks 5 exercises every morning, and we have a board of exercises that he picks. He goes, okay, I want this exercise, I want this exercise, I want this exercise, and he chooses exercises every morning before school. And so it empowers him to choose the exercises. He's doing the exercises that he needs to do to integrate his nervous system, and then we scale up. So we figure, like, we have foundation exercises, which is like beginner, intermediate, and then advanced. My son is between the intermediate and advanced exercises now, which is great. And he's starting to show a lot of progress, not only with schoolwork, but also at home in all his exercise and also his sports too. Consistent practice, that's it. We just need to practice. Like if you come to see me 3 times a week, there's 160 hours in a week. And if you're with us for an hour and a half in a week, I mean, there's 166 and a half hours left in a week that we need to integrate and create habits. Remember, once we integrate these primitive reflexes, now we have to start creating habits in the brain and the nervous system, so habit stacking. And so for us to create new habits, we need to do repetition. And trust me, the exercises aren't that long. When my son does these exercises, it's only 5, maybe to 10 minutes because he's playing, 5 to 10 minutes a day. It's not a lot. And here's some results that we see clinically. Results are 85% emotional regulation in our children, showing reduced anxiety and fewer meltdowns, an improvement of 76% in academic progress, demonstrating improved reading and writing skills, 90% attention improves, shows better focus and ability to complete tasks, 95% of family harmony. This is really important, right? So when we have a child that is having meltdowns at family events, it just becomes extremely stressful, or going out to a restaurant, right? So what we found, at least in our household, once we integrated these reflexes, it took some time, but now the brain is starting to catch up a little bit and is starting to develop. And so going to restaurants is a lot more fun. Going in public is a lot more fun. And I'm sure you guys could relate. Taking the first steps. And so notice the patterns. Is it a loud noise that triggers? And maybe now now that we understand it's a nervous system issue, not a behavioral issue, maybe we start being a little bit more patient, right? It's tough. I know it's not easy, right? Track your child's behavior to see what triggers them. Sometimes I know with my son, if we have gluten, if we have bread 2 days in a row, he goes a little crazy. So start tracking some foods that may be inflammatory or neuroinflammatory, and he starts or she starts having behavioral issues. Just be mindful of that. And then start researching. Don't take my word for it. Start studying and understanding primitive reflexes. Eventually, we're going to have a course online called Rewired, and this will be a whole entire, I don't know how many modules, between 8 and 12 module course that we're developing to teach you how to assess your child at home and treat your child at home as well using corrective strategies. And then seek an assessment. So if you can't come in to see me, find somebody that specializes in primitive reflexes. Or what we do is we do intensives. So people come in from all over the country, sometimes outside the world, and they do 5-day intensive with us, where we do reflex integration work using our specialized technology. There's stuff like that too. But you find somebody, make sure you're asking questions. Do you address primitive reflexes? How do you address it? If they're addressing it without using laser therapy and without using technology, and then they're going to have slow progress, right? But you want to be sure you find a clinical practice that focuses on treating your child. Then build support. Like understanding that it's a primitive reflex issue now, and it's more of a neurological based issue. Now you can actually go to the school systems and just have conversations with them, and hopefully now they can understand a little bit more too, right, about what's going on with your child. All right, guys. Well, that is it. If you like this kind of content, please share it with somebody you love. Please like, comment below. Help me build this community, because my mission is to serve and help more children. And the only way for me to do that is to help the parents. So hopefully you take this information, you grow from it, you learn from it. And if you have any questions, just comment below or just try to contact the office. Feel free. All right. I'm here to serve you guys. Thank you so much. Sempre Levante. Always forward.